If you experience fear, how do you deal with it? Well, Leia asks, I just found Creative North today. Really like your style, the color, mood, and the angles you use. I've never done a film before and want to document my grandparents' life story. Any suggestions where to start when starting out? Thanks. I think if you make a film like that, it's very, very, very important that it's personal. It has to be uniquely personal to your life story and your grandparents. It has to become, a touching portrait of them. Nobody wants to see an over, arced type of story where you have it's all dramatic and la 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 with dramaturgy, and then there's no personal story in there. You have to make it personal. You have to go into your own self and ask yourself, why is this unique? Why is this story unique? What's the strong parts of it, and why would people want to watch it? And then I think just go out and do it, because if you wait, at least you can do it as a research phase to just go out and shoot it, and then you will do a better documentary in the end. But don't be afraid to reenact stuff that's happened. Try to look at it like making a film and not a documentary, I would say. But it has to be true to the characters. But if you do a documentary that's personal, it's always going to be true to the characters. Okay, so Alan Reed. Do you think a channel can succeed doing a variety of different videos instead of finding one niche? Maybe. I don't really think so. I think if you compare, for instance, Vice to what Casey Neistat does, who is the most successful on YouTube? I think it's Casey. I think if you do something that's personal and it's niched, it has much more potential to grow, because what people look for on YouTube is pretty much niches. They want to follow a voice that is unique. And if you do a stuff like a TV channel or something like that, like for instance Vice does, I think it has less potential of being the biggest channel on YouTube if you do it that way. Sure, they're really, really successful and they're doing a great channel, but they've also used it to put it into something that they sell as a TV station. But if you look at different channels, when they split up, if you do several channels, that's also not a good thing, because then you're putting all your energy in too many places at once. It's better to just focus on one and then try to make that successful, and then you can move on to other stuff. But start with small things. Don't do too much at once. I do once a week this thing. That's what I can handle with other work. Deb Noble asks, have you considered setting up a Patreon page? I know many YouTubers have been able to support their work that way. I have. I haven't yet come around to it. Dempsey Templey asks, are you allergic to contrast? Yeah, I am. No, but the thing is that if you go into a cinema, and that's how I see my things, cinematic, you should, watch them in the dark when you go to bed or something like that. Even if it's a fucking phone, I still see them as cinematic works. I don't see this as a YouTube video. I see it as cinematic works. And for having a cinematic experience, I love the faded look. I love that matte type of black. I love that in photography. I love that in film. I think that it creates a realistic tone to the material, and the eye thinks it's much more pleasing when you're in a dark room. That's why I'm fond of it. And then, are you allergic to contrast? Yeah, I guess I am, but I do so much commercial work that has a lot of contrast. I guess it's like an anti that too, that I have to have some place to do something else that isn't the same type of shit that everybody else does. Okay, so Julian Pierre Belanger asks, again, I'm amazed by your videos. This doesn't feel like a vlog at all. How long do you put into making these videos? Actually, like it can vary, but I've said that it cannot take more than a day to make it because that's going to be unrealistic to do it. So usually it takes maximum a day. For the previous episodes about Zero Silence stuff, that's been stuff that I've had before, and then I have to repackage it in a way and retell the story from a personal aspect, because the films in the beginning, it was only about the characters. So for that it took, a couple of hours per episode. So it kind of varies, but usually I try to make it in a day from start to finish. But then I also shoot all the time, so that's, added upon the day that it takes to edit and do the post-production and all that, and shoot, complementary scenes or voiceover and that sort of thing. Alright, so click. Are you ever afraid somebody would do some harm for you because you didn't like the subject or viewpoint of your documentary? If you experience fear, how do you deal with it? Well, I'm just telling stories. I've never thought of being, in harm's way when it comes to that. I don't make that type of political films that would make somebody hunt me down, I think. But on the other hand, I do experience it when I'm in the field. It's much more hostile. For instance, in Tahrir Square, there was a day where they were just, there was a cloud coming towards us, and like a huge, massive storm cloud. But it was rocks being thrown, and it was just getting closer and closer and closer. Those times, of course, you feel fear for your life and for, what the hell am I gonna do? I thought of putting my memory cards in my socks because I didn't want to get caught with the memory cards, and then I got out of that square and got up on a bridge, and I went in to talk with some pro-Mubarak protesters, and I think I'm not fearing anything because I don't think that I'm hostile. Like I'm not violent in that way. I'm not confronting anybody. I'm just being there documenting, and that's how I see it most of the time. But I've been in situations that you have to get out of there, and like they started cracking down on demonstrators and then eventually journalists in Egypt. We were staying at a smaller hotel, and at the same time they were just going to the big hotels, and they were getting a journalist after a journalist after a journalist, taking their equipment and all that. Those times you're also thinking about what the hell am I doing, hiding hard drives and that sort of stuff before they come. They didn't come, but you take precautions, of course, and you take precautions for anything like online activity. You think twice about like how do you communicate with subjects and all those things. But it's a huge subject. The Film Lab asks, do you have any tips for making money promoting your film documentary? Making money, I think it's hard to get money from making docs. Of course, if you make a more commercial film, it's easier to make money. But the thing that often happens is that like indie filmmakers go out and they have all the passion and they go making their films, and then they find a distributor, and then that distributor kind of takes all the money because you've made the film, you're really happy that finally it's going to get out there. Maybe you get a advance and all that, but once a distributor takes the film, you're pretty much not going to see any money after that. Like it goes into promotion, it goes into a black hole of things just being distributed to different places and costing money at the same time as they get distributed. So for that, I think it's really hard. The way I look at it is that this is a platform for me to be visible to other people to hire me, like consultancy work. So I get hired. I work full time as a commercial director. And that's pretty much what I use the films for, and the channel too, is to show that, I'm kind of into this type of stuff. Do you want to hire me for it? Call me. And it's a better way of trying to get them to discover it themselves. Instagram can do the same thing for cinematographers. You can just be, you know, on Instagram showing what type of moods and what type of style you like, and then you get a call. Maybe not a call, maybe in text or something, email-ish. But then promoting that, I have tons of advice to. Like, we do a blog on Huffington Post. It took us some time to get on Huffington Post, but eventually we did, and since then we've always used it. Like, every week we use Huffington Post to promote our work. Every week we use YouTube to create videos that are relevant to our audience, but it is also promotions, you know, of us and of our stories. But we see it as, like, if it's going to be promotion, like I'm promoting the Pearl of Africa through the vlog, that is being done in a way where you think it's valuable. It's being done in a separate story that you can get engaged in. It's not like I'm saying, oh, go and buy this film, blah, blah, blah. It's not even going to be for sale. It's going to be up on a undisclosed VOD site soon, perhaps. Or it's already been released. It depends on when I'm releasing this. But the thing is, I think people look too much to making money on YouTube and in docs and stuff. They don't see the value in building a long-term, like multi-year engagement where you build your own name, because what you're gonna earn today is gonna be so little compared to what you're gonna get if you build a huge, like, personal brand for the future. Look at Michael Moore. Look at somebody that, you know, goes into the advertising world and just, like, makes tons of money. Like, there's so much money in that world. So it's easy for me to make commercials than to go and apply for funding. I'm gonna have more money from going to make a commercial for a week than I'm gonna get if I apply for funding for a week. You know, so to me it's easy. I just go out and I make myself commercially interesting somehow. Keegan and Cars. What I would like to know is for the voiceover. Are you writing down beforehand or is it freestyle? And one more thing. Do you edit your video in full and then add the voiceover? Or do you edit the film according to your pre-recorded voiceover? Many thanks. I have material from something that I feel like, oh, this is good. This is something that I want to see. And then I start playing around with that material. And then I get inspired to write a voiceover. So I start looking at the material, starting to playing around with like music and that sort of thing. Eventually I kind of find an idea of like, okay, so this is what I'm going to write. And then I go into the sound booth. That isn't really a sound booth. It's like a closet thing. And then I go in there, I record the voiceover, which I've pre-written. So I sit down and I write it, and then I go and record it, and then I get it in, and then I retweak the editing, and then eventually that kind of ends up being the whole video. But it can vary depending on what the situation is. Sometimes I know what the story narrative is before. Sometimes I've written the narrative before I've even, you know, gone into looking at the scenes. Yeah. Fiction maker. All I want is to present my ideas to clients, artists, associations, companies. But they always come to me with their own ideas, visual scripts, and say that they like the videos, but they want something totally different. How to manage and change their minds. Like, this is such a big thing. It always happens. Like, I make so much commercials, and like some stuff I would never put my name on. I would never put my name on it, but they pay well, so I just do it, and then I fund my projects doing it that way. I think the way to get around it is to develop a personal style that they come to you for. And the only way you can do that is by doing stuff. Like, you have to make shorts, you have to make feature films, you have to make commercials that are looking the way you want them to look. You have to only promote those things. And you have to say no to projects. You have to be, you know, strong enough to not take things that you don't believe in. That's where I'm at now. I'm trying to turn down more stuff. And I'm trying to kind of push my own style of directing. And you have to work hard at it. You have to really try to develop your personal style by making stuff and try to make them see it. And this vlog is how I make them see it, but somebody else is gonna have a different platform. And I don't believe in sending them stuff. I don't believe in trying to force them to watch anything. But you have to produce stuff that they will see anyway. So it's a kind of hard thing to make happen. But it's an interesting topic, I think, because I'm working hard at it every day. Alright, so that's gonna be it for now, I think, because I'm running out of memory cards. I'm gonna do more Q&As if you like it, so please post comments below. Let me know what you wanna ask, what do you wanna hear more about, like, do you want live, do you want it like this? I prefer this for now, but live is something that I've dabbled in before it became popular on YouTube and Facebook, so I could go back to that too. Alright, see you next week.
It's a perfect day for the road.